finishes at Trafalgar Square, and then they have prasadam there. They have kirtan programs there. It's quite nice. ISKCON does it pretty well, very well organized. Yeah. You have to give it to them for that. It really is really well organized.
Okay, so we are streaming live already. Okay. Well,
Can I request you?
Yeah, of course.
Something. You know, I mean, for a long time, this is going in my head, the Bhajare Mana. Can you do that?
Sing Bhaja Hure Mana. Yeah,
I know.
sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I just don't want to.
No, that's fine.
But it's been going in my head for the last 5 days.
Yeah, for sure we can sing. Yeah.
You want to get it out?
I want to get it out.
So that's page 155.
It'd be nice for me if coming to you because.
I find this book very interesting.
So 155, yeah?
155, yeah. Bhaja Hure Mana Shinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindane. Bhaja Hure Mana Shinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindane. Bhaja Hure Mana Shinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Or should we read?
Yeah.
O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which make one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of saintly persons.
Both in the day and at night I remain sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain. For a fraction of flickering happiness, I have uselessly served wicked and miserly men.
What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, usefulness, sons, and family members? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari.
It is the desire and great longing of Govinda Das to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting those glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, serving him with flowers and incense and so forth, serving him as a friend, and completely offering the Lord one's very self. You have a cushion there? You can take a cushion if you like. Pandit, you want to sing something?
122.
Can you pass me that small pair of cartels?
You can play actually. You be better. Yes.
Okay.
I can clap. Thank you.
Nitai pada kamala koti kanda
Nitai pada kamala, koti chanda suchitala. Nitai pada kamala, Gai Gaur Madhur Swada, you can say.
So 1, 3, 2.
Do you want to read the meaning? So you thought you want to read the meaning of the last?
That one's a bit
Okay.
don't know if we're all ready for that.
Okay, sorry.
For this one we will.
Okay.
have some nice guests and friends here today. Does anyone want to suggest a topic or has a special request?
Vishakha Devi ki
Jai.
Okay. Ruvanandru's brought some special equipment.
No, I don't know why. It's just it's typical when I try to do something, or something always goes wrong.
Did you have some particular point you wanted to discuss?
Yes.
We can discuss that.
I mean,
Is that not a weird? You can put it here if you want.
Be careful.
no, then I can
See
stop
my-
it as well. So
They're gonna see my knee. you can sit here
So,
if
okay,
you
now I
want.
guess. I don't know. I mean, if you want to go first, if you have any questions, you're here for the first time, right?
For me, it's the first time. My
Being here last
husband came here with it
Last week I came on Sunday.
Okay.
And you're one of the regulars here now, right? He helps regularly with the prasadam distribution. Sorry, your name again? Pierce, okay.
It's going to go on the internet anyway, right?
We're already live
That's
right
fine.
now.
So I'll steal it from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was going to ask you really about. Let me just. So I was really going to ask you a couple of questions today, but in Bhakti tradition, there's a concept of surrender, and it's very big. Sharanagati is very, very big. So I wanted to just ask, is there any like stages of Sharanagati, or like stages of surrender, and also in our tradition, what does actually surrender means?
So what are the different stages of Sharanagati? And what does Sharanagati actually mean?
Means.
Okay. Well, Anandji, would you mind to close that glass door? There's some exposition on Tulasi Seva going on.
Can you close this
Little
door?
distraction. Oh, it's okay. Maybe people will come in and out. So different stages of Sharanagati. Oh, so Sharanagati, you're familiar with this word, or maybe? Yes, Sharanagati means surrender. Yes. And there are different, they're in the scriptures, and also Bhaktivinoda Thakur in particular, and also our grandfather, Guru Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they have discussed these 6, I don't know if we would call them stages, but 6 aspects of surrender. And we could say, like, on the whole, as one progresses in surrender, each of these different aspects will be expressed more and more. I think you need a chair.
No, not really. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Just okay.
There are those, like, just fold-up chairs.
No.
So you look very uncomfortable. So we could say, as one progresses in Sharanagati, in surrender, then these 6 aspects will, simultaneously develop also. And, we can preface this by saying that, like they have this expression, this is what sets the men apart from the boys, kind of thing. Like the more serious practitioners of bhakti are characterized by their attempts to practice Sharanagati. Because, nowadays bhakti, it's becoming, especially like I'm traveling to California now, and there's this whole alternative movement that's growing up in which bhakti is becoming very popular, the concept of bhakti. And there are different deities, like the Hanuman deity is especially popular. So you see many of these groups, bhakti is becoming something very much appreciated, celebrated. But these groups, I mean, not to say all of them and not to criticize, but what I observe in many of them is that this concept of Sharanagati is missing. The concept of self-giving, it is missing. They're very attracted with the different, devotional practices, like especially kirtan, worship. They're attracted to that. But that mood of, but it's more something that is pleasing. Like if you come to this temple, on one level you can come and have a very nice sensual experience, right? The sounds, these beautiful bells and the kirtan, the incense, very nice people, very sattvic, clean, higher-minded people. The food is very nice. And, just like on a sensual level, on the level of the senses, it's a very pleasing experience, right? All of these different, elements of bhakti in the practice of devotion. But what's missing with some of these persons is that understanding that we are approaching all of this in a mood of dedication. Like this, the kirtan is not something to please my senses, I don't want to criticize it, because this is also a stage. You could say this is one stage of Sharanagati. This is a stage that some of these persons are moving through. Like you move from class 1 to class 2 to class 3, right? So, it's kind of like one example you could give is like children, like say they want to be when they're young, they'll often say, oh, I want to be a ballerina, or I want to be an astronaut, and they may dress up, right? And, oh, look, now I'm a ballerina. Now I'm an astronaut. But they don't understand, like, how much sacrifice is necessary to actually get there, And then when they come to an age where they could enter into that as a career, they may decide, hang on, this is going to be way too much work. This is going to consume my life. If I want to be successful in this sphere, if I want to be a rocket scientist or whatever it is, like how much dedication is required, how much sacrifice is required. And then many of them they'll choose something else, So it's the same in the practice of devotion, at more of a beginner's level, let's say it like that. Beginner's level, someone's engaging in all of these practices, on a sensory level, in a way that they're focused on their senses being pleased by these things. The kirtan, the prasad, the people, like I mentioned. So this is something that's pleasing me. Because this is generally how we approach the world, right? I am the subject, and the world is an object. The world exists, for me to enjoy. We may not be conscious of that, but it's there. It's playing throughout our lives, Like we are consumers. Like this is just a common accepted word nowadays. We don't even question it. Like, do we want to be consumers, actually? So this is like kind of how we think, and how like the modern media encourages us to think also. Like, we exist to consume, to enjoy, to acquire, to control, to collect, and everything else exists as an object. And that includes, resources, people. Sometimes, like if it's more of a developed tendency, we'll see people and relationships like that, And that can be unfortunate if it's very developed. So then we bring that to the practice of bhakti at a beginner's level. The deity, the Murti is so beautiful. I can just stare all day at how beautiful the deity is, But actually, like, if we're approaching the deity with the mood of dedication, we're not seeing the deity as an object to be enjoyed by our vision, but we want to be seen by the deity. We want to be seen by the Lord. We are praying You please see me. I want to be an object in your vision. It is the other way around, When we go to take the prasad, the food that has been offered to the Lord, then instead of thinking, oh, this is so tasty, this is so pleasing, I want some more of this and I want some more of that. Instead of thinking like that, we'll be thinking, I am rendering service to the remnants of the Lord. I'm expressing a mood of service here in honoring. I'm honoring what the Lord has mercifully given to me for my own sustenance and as an expression of his mercy. This is prasad. Prasad means mercy, means grace. So it's really like 360 degrees. It's really like a completely opposite way of approaching things, And we won't come in the temple and think, oh, how can this person help me? But how can I be of service to them? We won't think, how are they pleasing or displeasing to me? How are they nice or not nice to me? How are they irritating me? Or how are they pleasing to me? We won't think like that. We will think, how can I be of support to this person? How can I assist this person in what they're trying to do? Or how can I assist them in fulfilling their potential? It's a completely opposite way of seeing things. So this is the spirit of Sharanagati. This is the spirit of surrender. Not that exists for me, but I exist for that. Not that God, the idea that God is like this great benevolent Father who's on the circumference of things, supplying everything to us. This is a nice idea, but this is grade 1 understanding. I'm the one in the center. I'm the one who's enjoying everything. And God's there like supplying my daily bread. He's there out somewhere, in some vague kind of way, taking care of us. Thank you, God. Thanks, God. It's very nice because there is that appreciation and connection, but we do want to mature and go to a deeper level of understanding. That God is in this, Krishna is in the center, the Lord is in the center, and I exist to serve him, to be a part within his reality. It's not that he's a part, not that he's one part in my reality. Oh God, please help me pass my exams, or please help me get the job that I want. Like that's making him a part of our little plans, our little worlds. But with the mood of Sharanagati, it's the opposite. I want to be one small part in your bigger worlds. Like, how can I be a part of your worlds, Lord? How can I fit into that? I want a place there, So it's just, this is like what distinguishes more like mature and immature conceptions. And the more mature conception is pervaded by the spirit of Sharanagati.
And I was thinking about it as well, and I think one of the beautiful examples which comes in Mahabharata, that when Draupadi is being dragged into the, in front of when they lose the game with Kauravas, and Draupadi is dragged in and he's, derobing one of the Kauravas, I can't remember the name.
Was
Dushashan.
No, Dushashan. Yeah.
And then she calls and calls, and I'm sure do you remember that episode? So
actually, Srila Sridhar Maharaj commented that this is the highest point of the Mahabharata. He said it is even higher than Bhagavad Gita, the point of surrender there, because Bhagavad Gita is within Mahabharata, right? Because it is such a stark call of surrender that she makes. First she's calling out to her husbands and other persons for help, and there's no response. And then finally she's trying to like protect herself. Then she's calling for help from others. And finally she just gives it all up, puts herself fully in Krishna's care. So yeah, it's a beautiful example. And later she asked Krishna, why did you take so long? And he said, well, in the beginning you were asking other people for help, like you didn't approach me. But when you came exclusively to me, and you were my only shelter, please help me, then I came immediately.
And I think the beautiful aspect is when, I think it's one point, if I'm not mistaken, that Draupadi is thinking of her honor. So she's aware of her honor, which is obviously a bit ego, because she's aware of her body in front of her relatives, because when she's going to be derobed, everybody will see.
Yeah.
So she's very aware of her honor, but so she's holding the little bit right at the end. But then suddenly she just says, she gives up, and she just puts her hand up.
Yeah.
And I think that's the complete Sharanagati, right? No, she doesn't even care about her honor and her shame.
Yeah.
And I mean, what a subtle, I mean, I was thinking about it, I said, this example really comes to my mind, you know, that, of Sharanagati, and that's why I was interested to ask.
I mean, that's one of the best explanation where it says that Krishna comes first. You know, like when you quote all the list of people and Krishna knows about it. That, okay, Draupadi is in that situation, but never appears. Only when her name. That's the time.
No, but that also,
very, very.
but in a real life,
yeah.
the example is in our real life, we don't ask him first. We ask him right at the end. We're asking our friends, and we never say, you know, I'm asking you, you know, and
it's only when everything is you give up on everyone.
Give up even your honor, even your shame. That you know what it's for a royal lady like Draupadi. Honor is everything. You know, she's a queen, little princess, I think, and that time, that society, that it means a lot. For a respectable honor man, you know, the honor is everything.
Yes.
Yeah. More than, I mean, death is preferable.
Death is more preferable, but honor, she even gives up her honor.
Yeah.
You know, she says, let it, I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's Maharaj's book as well, isn't it? Which I have not really read, and I should be not really happy about it. But I should read. There is a book, right? Maharaj wrote on Sharanagati.
Yes, we have that, and also Prapana Jivanamrita. These are two books which are exploring. So the scriptures, they describe these 6 limbs of Sharanagati. Anukulyasya sankalpa, acceptance of the favorable. Pratikulya vivarjana, rejection of the unfavorable. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulya vivarjana. Confidence in the Lord's protection. Embracing the Lord's guardianship, surrender and humility, karpanyam, and atmanivedanam, full self-surrender. Or what is the word Srila Sridhar Maharaj uses for atman? He uses a different word there. Atmanikshepa uses a different word. Yeah, so accepting the favorable, accepting everything in our lives that is favorable to the culture of devotion, rejecting everything that is unfavorable to the culture of devotion, to be confident, to have the confidence that the Lord is taking care of us, that He will take, even in difficult circumstances. So this book, Prapana Jivanamrita, which is extraordinary, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the best book ever, next to Chaitanya Charitamrita. So this is extraordinary. This is an extraordinary book. It was originally composed all in Sanskrit, and it's a compilation of different verses from the scriptures which are illuminating in an organized way each of these 6 limbs of surrender. So confidence in the Lord's protection, dakshishatiti vishvasa. Then you have so many verses which are examples of that mood. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj has also included his own original illuminations, like drawing out the essential point in each verse cited. But just as an example, that for confidence in the Lord's protection, I was just making this point that, and this is also an example of a deeper idea of surrender and devotion, that what does the Lord's protection mean? that question comes up. Like, does it mean that your bank balance is going to be, supported, or you're going to have, the best circumstances, Or is it a deeper kind of protection that's being referred to? And so interestingly, in that section, confidence in the Lord's protection, one of the verses that Srila Sridhar Maharaj uses to highlight, to demonstrate what this mood means, is this verse of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, maybe you're familiar with. He was the kind of the instigator of the scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, because he received this curse that he was going to die in 7 days. And he's on the banks of the Ganga, and fasting, and just in this mood of meditation, and so many sages assembled there, and he's asking them, what's the best thing for someone who's been told they have 7 days left to live, what's the best thing they could do? And there are all these different sages and rishis, they're all giving their different opinions, chanting this mantra, that mantra, doing this yagya or that yagya, or doing this charity or that charity, or different austerities, and there's all these different opinions, and in the midst of that assembly, the Shukadev comes, and everyone defers to him, and then these teachings of Krishna and absolute surrender, absolute love, that are presented in Srimad Bhagavatam, and they come from the Shukadev within this context. But anyway, there's one beautiful verse there spoken by Parikshit. Do you remember that verse? How does it go? I can't remember right now. But he says, I'm here, I'm about to die, but my only prayer is that, these talks of divinity, these talks of the Lord, they can continue without any obstruction. May I have the blessings of all of you saintly persons. May I have the blessings of Ganga Devi. May I have the blessings of the Lord and the saints. And my only prayer at this moment of death is not for extension of my life or protection from this curse, but my prayer is that all of these talks, they can continue uninterrupted, And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj has this illumination there, like realization that the highest kind of protection comes through Harikatha, through the discussion of the Lord's glories. So this is a different kind of, this is protection of the soul, protection of our spirit. This is something else. So, what are we approaching the Lord for? Not for some facility in this world, but for that, that inner awakenment, for sustaining that, for fulfilling that inner necessity, an awakening in our eternal relationship with the Lord. So this is a more, to be protected from illusion, to be protected from misconception. This is real protection. To be on the path of truth, of higher truth. This is real protection.
And I think you brought me very nicely to my second, I was going to ask you a question, was that you said no in all the circumstances, right? So good, bad, and life is up, down, constantly, right? And especially in the bad times, when things are not going your way, and look at the COVID, last 18 months, and people have gone through a lot, right? And I think I asked you before as well, but I can't really remember, so I'll ask again. So, when you are Sharanagati, I suppose, even in the worst of times, it is very hard for someone, a normal ordinary person, to say that whatever is happening, even the worst thing in my life, is for my good. It is very, very difficult to see that. What would you say to that? Because obviously we are not reached that level of of awareness or conception where you can say, yes, everything is happening for good.
Yeah.
You know, mentally you're not ready. Things happen in life. Extremely traumatic events happen.
Yeah.
So for someone normal, what should be the approach? If they can bring that thought, that awareness. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, for example, I'll just give you an example. I think when my own personal, you're aware of it. So I remember Srila Maharaj said something about that we cannot change the environment, we cannot control the environment. All we can do is adapt to the environment. So that kind of awareness, and even with that awareness, it was very, very hard for me. So, I mean, what has been your experience in that regard? Like, how do you bring that awareness, or keep that awareness within you, have that faith?
Well,
of Sharanagati, like mood of Sharanagati.
Yeah. If I this water, right, I have no idea what it, like, I don't have an inside view of my body, right? But I have information, like, from scientists, from doctors, like, and they've told me, if I drink this water, this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be good for you, right? And in a theoretical way, like, I can hear these explanations, and I say, okay, they make sense. I'm going to trust them, and I'm going to drink it. I'm going to trust. I can't see the water going down there. I don't know everything that's happening, and I don't understand exactly, like, how it's working. But I've read some general explanation, and it makes sense to me, and I see the results that, oh yeah, it does make me feel better, So it's the same, like, I feel with spiritual life, because in some ways, because we're not at the level of realization, right? We're at the level of conceptualization. But in one kind, like, we don't encourage blind faith. This is what I want to say. But there is an element of blindness because we're not at the level of realization yet. In the same way, there's a type of blindness when I'm taking some medicine or I'm taking this or that because I'm just trusting the doctor's telling me. And I can read an explanation, yeah, it makes sense, but it's still, there's some blindness there because I don't have a profound knowledge of what's taking place, So in the same way, when it comes to certain teachings, sometimes we have to try to follow in a blind way because we know this is going to be good for me and good for others. The result's going to be better. This is more in harmony with the whole. If somebody comes and like punches me, then in that moment, it's difficult to think this is a karmic reaction, Like, this is coming for... In the moment, I'm just upset, And maybe I want to shout at them, or maybe I want to slap them, or... That would be my initial reaction. But what I would do is I would try to calm myself down by referring to the scriptural version, to the version of Sadhu Shastra, the scripture, the guru, the saints. Like, how do they explain that this is a reaction to something that you've done previously? This is coming to purify you. And this is an opportunity for you to respond positively to negativity, to respond positively and progressively to a negative situation. So then, if somebody comes and puts something negative in my face, I can either respond to them on the same level. Next level is I can say, well, I'm responsible, so I'm just not going to react. I'm just going to tolerate this, And then next level is feeling compassion for that person, like, how can I support that person? What are they going through in their day that they're behaving in such a way. Like, is everything okay at home? Like, are you processing some childhood trauma here? Like, how can we help you? How can I support you? They say, how can I hold space for you? That's one of the phrases they use nowadays. How can we hold space for you right now? You know? And you see, like, yeah, this all sounds very nice. It's a nice idea. But it's also what I'm saying, it sounds very like kind of like wishy-washy, abstract, right? But you do that and you see what kind of results it produces. You see how powerful these ideas are. We're just talking about these ideas. But you go and you practice that. See how your life turns around 360 degrees. Like, total transformation. If we all start to live like that, we will revolutionize our lives. We will completely transform our relationships, our whole environment. Everything will change if we're able to respond to every situation in that way. Like being accountable, taking responsibility for what happens, and also dealing with it in a positive and a progressive way. Like how much can we change our lives for the better if we can respond in that kind of way? So, by following, and these are all, I'm talking kind of like some self-help manual right now, but these ideas are all given in the scriptures. These are the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, And they may not always make immediate sense to us. They may not always be what our instinct is. But if we try to practice them, even sometimes in something of a blind way, we will experience the results.
I mean, what I would say is, like, for a normal person, when the emotions are taking over, it is extremely hard. If you're not already established in your sadhana or that level of realization, emotions will just take over, because ego just will take over. Ego and emotion will take over. And I think what is important, in my experience, was the support circle around you, who actually, when you cannot think straight, there's someone around you who can, point you to the right direction. And I find that, and that support circle is very, very important. That's what I realized, having friends or people who are not in the situation, but it's not affecting them, and they can actually guide you. And obviously, and also at that point, it's very, very hard to talk about higher conception, because your emotions are so high that you cannot. Nothing makes sense to you at that point. But I found, I think, with like having a support circle, really just giving you that nudge. Come on, wake up. That's the direction. Don't lose the focus, so to speak. And I think that helps, even though you're feeling the emotion of the pain, the trauma, and also I realize, I think if you're feeling it, feel it. I think we should not deny that as well at the same time, right? We shouldn't say, oh, keep smiling, be happy, no. If you're feeling it, feel it. Because if I pinch you, you can feel the pinch. It's real. It's very, very real. You cannot say it's not real. So, yeah, I mean, it was a very, the reason I asked, not really for myself, but for people who are going through this, I think having a nice support circle and having the right knowledge, isn't it, with the teachings, is very, and the Sridhar Maharaj's that quote really helped me. That when you're in a situation where you cannot control, I think he's talking about Arjuna and Krishna, that Arjuna becomes very despondent, and he's saying,
and
he says, I'll not fight, and I think in that context, Maharaj said that you cannot control the situation, but you can control yourself. Yeah, third question I forgot. Maybe others can ask. But yeah, it was. So Sharanagati, as you said, it's complete surrender basically of your ego and your mind. Everything. Not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we are so attached. That's the problem.
Yeah. Wow, look at our new friend here. This is the first time I'm meeting. What is his name?
Amal Krishna.
What is
Amal Krishna.
Amal Krishna. Wow, beautiful.
He's grown. He has grown, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's full set of teeth.
Wow, time flies. How old is he now?
He's almost one now. It's coming up to one in September. Getting there.
Yeah, Sharanagati, this is the main thing. Main thing. This is the essence, really, of what we're doing. Learning how we can progressively give ourselves, more and more. And there's no limits, actually. The degree of Sharanagati, it is infinite. There's no limit. There's no ceiling there. How much. But as you indicated, we do have to move forward in a, step by step. We can't jump to the highest point immediately. We are taking baby steps, and that is appreciated. Our guardians, our divine guardians, they are appreciative of our little efforts. They are accepting that mercifully. In the beginning, we made one example I was just thinking of as we were talking is, in the beginning, we may feel, oh, I am a benefactor, right? That we are benefiting. If we are offering some service, right? We will think, oh, we are helping our guru, we're helping the temple, we're helping the Vaishnavas. But then as we progress, we realize, actually, I am the one who's being blessed, with this opportunity. Actually, anyone else, they can also do this. If I go, someone else will come, It's not that I am indispensable. This is an opportunity for me. This is my greatest fortune, that I can be engaged in some way. There was one wealthy disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who's pictured here, and Jagabandhu Bhakti Ranjan, and he donated all of the funds for one of the principal temples that they had in India. Was in Calcutta, the Bagh Bazaar Gaudiya Math, and no doubt he did many other services, but Saraswati Thakur, he expressed very deep appreciation for him. And no doubt not only because of the financial support, but his devotional mood in general. And he published, Saraswati Thakur, I think he wrote something in glorification of him, his disciple. And then his disciple, Jagabandhu Bhaktiranjan, he responded with this beautiful poetry. And he was very, very ashamed that he was being praised in this way. And he said, what is yours already, I gave to you. Actually, everything that I have, myself included, they are your property. They belong to you. And I simply gave you what's already yours, So what is there to be said about that, It is not such a great thing, So, in the beginning, we may feel, as we're making progress in spiritual life, we may feel, oh, I'm making sacrifice, I'm sacrificing my time, I'm sacrificing my energy or whatever. But then as we progress, we realize there's no question of sacrifice. All of my energy belongs for this anyway, Everything I have comes from Him. Everything I have comes from the Lord. I belong to Him. Everything I have belongs to Him. And so there's no question of sacrifice, actually. There's only greater and greater expressions of love and giving. But, you know, in the same way that a parent will happily accept mud pie from their children, you know, so the Lord and our gurus, they are accepting our efforts and encouraging us.
Very good example, you know. Isn't it? When the kids, they make these cookies and fairy cakes, and you know this is going to be a disaster, but you're still eating it.
You're a little scared to eat it.
Yeah, this is love.
I love that example of Ganga Jal, Ganga Puja. For Ganga Puja, you need water from Ganga.
Yes, you worship the Ganga with Ganga water. Yes.
That's a very nice example.
Sorry, maybe I have one.
Yeah.
Because my first time, so I didn't research, I've seen the website, but why it is Chaitanya Center and what's the mood to, or I can see the values a bit for my first time, but if like coming here, we spread the words or how, I want to know the mood to just like not like if we do kirtan, we serving, just out of curiosity, like one Chaitanya Center.
Oh, so you're asking something about who Chaitanya Dev is? Is that your question?
I've read it in terms of the books, but
You have read something.
yeah,
Okay.
not much. But we go to the ISKCON one.
Mm.
So this one, how is it different from the ISKCON one?
Okay, I understand. You're trying to like place this, like where do we fit into everything?
Yeah,
right?
I've seen you did Krishna Kirtan as well, and what's different about from the ISKCON?
I mean, essentially we're the same. Actually, we're different organizations, but the teachings are 100% the same. The lineage is the same, but just different organizations. And yeah, I mean, I see like I met also a few days ago in Hounslow, I think it was, right? We met one lady who visits the Soho temple, and she was also a little confused because we mentioned that we worship Lord Chaitanya, and she didn't know who Lord Chaitanya was. So I think persons, if you're visiting ISKCON but not so deeply involved, then I guess you would, because in their temples, at least in England, they only have Radha, Krishna, and now they have Sita Ram also in ISKCON, in the Watford. But they're, yeah, I mean, if you were to like attend their daily classes, then there's a lot of discussion about Lord Chaitanya, for sure. I mean, this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that we study, this scripture, it is, this English edition was prepared by Prabhupada. This isn't from ISKCON. So I mean, that has come from ISKCON. That book's all about Lord Chaitanya. Yeah, no, it's the same movement. And basically, Lord Chaitanya Dev, he is an avatar of Krishna, we can say, to keep it simple, who comes, he's Krishna coming hidden in the form of a devotee of Krishna. Krishna appeared around 5,000 years ago, right? And he gives some instructions in Bhagavad Gita and other places. But then he comes as Lord Chaitanya in order to give a practical example of what it means to be a devotee of Krishna. And he's also described as the avatar, the Yuga avatar. I don't know if you're familiar with that. You know, there are, in the scriptures describe a Yuga Dharma, like particular Dharma for each Yuga, each age, and the scriptures also describe. There are innumerable avatars actually, but there are specific avatars who come with the purpose of propagating the Dharma for each age. So in this age of Kali Yuga, Kirtan is the Dharma, the recommended Dharma. And Chaitanya Dev, he is the Yuga avatar who comes to propagate this practice of kirtan, Harinam Sankirtan. And he poses as a devotee of Krishna, as a devotee of Radha Krishna. And he promotes the ideal of Krishna Prema, divine love for Krishna, as the highest attainment of life. You know, the Vedas, they're giving this these four ideals, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, right? You're familiar with that, right? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, right? Every Indian family, they know about this, right? But Lord Chaitanya Dev, he came with the fifth goal, Pancham Purushartha, Krishna Prema. This is the fifth goal of life and the highest goal of life. You know, Krishna Prema, divine love for Krishna. So he spread Krishna Prema as the highest attainment, and Krishna Kirtan as the greatest practice, the means by which we can realize that Krishna Prema. So, you know, for the devotees of Krishna, you know, from our perspective, you know, we feel that Lord Chaitanya Dev is indispensable. Why? Because Lord Chaitanya Dev, he comes with a mood of magnanimity. Krishna, he's actually pretty busy. Krishna is very absorbed in his Leela. You know, he's absorbed in his divine pastimes with his beloved associates, companions. And he's not in the mood of distribution. Krishna is not in the mood of helping everyone in this world with their mundane problems, you know. But Lord Chaitanya Dev is coming to this world specifically with that mood of wanting to help the people of this world, you know, to give them entrance into Krishna Leela, to give them entrance into Krishna Prema. So the way that our gurus have trained us, you know, including Swami Maharaj Prabhupada and our Param Gurudev, they were godbrothers. They were in the same mission in India in the early 1900s. And our mission, it was founded they were part of this, right above you, Saraswati Thakur. He's the guru of Prabhupada and Sridhar Maharaj, who's our grandfather guru. So they were in the same mission. But what happened is after Saraswati Thakur left the world, 1936, then his mission eventually broke apart. You know, as often happens when a great soul leaves the world. So his mission broke apart, and his disciples went their own ways. And so Sridhar Maharaj, our grandfather guru, he founded his mission in 1942, actually before ISKCON, in Bengal, Navadvip, 1942. And he was very close with Prabhupada. They would visit each other often. Sometimes, actually, Prabhupada, at that time, he was a grihasta. He had a family, and he had a pharmacy. He was what do you call it? Pharmaceutic?
Chemist.
A chemist. Thank you. See how bad I am with all of those things? He was a chemist. And at one time he had 2 residences, 6 and 7 Sita Kanta Banerjee Lane. And at one time, so one house he kept for his family, and the other house he had his shop on the ground floor, and he gave the upper floor to Sridhar Maharaj and my guru, Srila Govinda Maharaj, to make as a preaching center for our mission. So actually Prabhupada, he opened the first branch of Chaitanya Saraswat Math outside of the original Navadvip temple. So and sometimes our Gurudev, he was 19 years old. He would stay in Calcutta for months at a time in this residence of Prabhupada's, and he'd go out preaching every day, and he would do programs together with Prabhupada. So they were all very closely connected. And then eventually Prabhupada, he felt that, pounding in his heart. My Guru Maharaj, he wanted us to go and take this to America, and nobody ever did. So then at 69 years old, he left India, and he went and he began this mission in America. But he maintained, all the way through, he maintained close contact with Sridhar Maharaj. And he saw Srila Sridhar Maharaj as like his mentor in some ways. And because Prabhupada was a grihasta, right? He was a family man, he had a business. He wasn't so involved in the mission of his guru. So he didn't have very much association with his guru. Whereas Srila Sridhar Maharaj had very extensive time in the mission as a sannyasi. So Prabhupada often turned to Srila Sridhar Maharaj for advice. And he actually asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj at one time to take the role of president for his mission, the ISKCON mission. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was never interested in having, his nature in his last days was to, quietly practice his spiritual mood. So anyway, they maintained very close relationship through everything. Prabhupada would come, whenever he came back to India, he would visit our temple in Navadvip. There were many pictures, and also letters, that document their relationship. So yeah, it is like the same family, but just like different households, different branches, but the same thing. And I mean, maybe ISKCON today, and maybe there's, maybe I'm going to get myself in trouble, but I think part of the reason in England perhaps there's a more emphasis on Radha Krishna is because there's a strong Hindu population who attends the ISKCON temples here, and they're more familiar with Radha Krishna. But in many of Prabhupada's temples, he established deities of Lord Chaitanya also, Nitai Gaur, many of his temples, isn't it?
Vrindavan also there.
Vrindavan, if you go to the Vrindavan temple, you see.
Even in wax, they got the pictures and everything.
They have pictures, okay. So, yeah. More or less the same. Yeah. But you may find some slightly different mood or some different points of emphasis or things like that.
Have you got time or have you got time? I can ask you.
What do you say?
Just one, and then because when I went to Vrindavan, I met Babaji. Again, when I met him, he sort of always reminded me of Sridhar Maharaj. Very quiet, very academic, very highly sort of like academic kind of a person, like a professor who's become a sannyasi. His whole background, and but he comes from a Gadadhar lineage, and so is there a slight difference in that? Are you aware of?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I mean, there's many lineages. There's Advaita Acharya's lineage,
yes.
There's Nityananda Prabhu's lineage.
But what I wanted to ask you is, there is all Rupanugas, or the Gadadhar is slightly different?
Yeah, that's not the line of Rupa Goswami.
No, that's not line.
Yeah.
Well,
There's also, one interesting point is that there's one lineage that's coming directly from Mahaprabhu, actually. Because Mahaprabhu only gave like direct initiation to one or two. And so Rakreshwar Pandit was practically Mahaprabhu's another name for Chaitanya Devi. Sorry, there's many names. Mahaprabhu's only disciple, and maybe you could count one or two others, but his principally known disciple is Rakreshwar Pandit, direct disciple of Mahaprabhu. And so there's a whole lineage, and I think they're based at the Radha Kanta Mat, where the Gambhir is. No, this is in Puri.
Puri.
Yeah. So there's this whole lineage which is coming directly from Mahaprabhu. So you could argue, well, that must be more bona fide. You could argue that, However, Mahaprabhu, he gave this special mercy to Rupa Goswami. Mahaprabhu indicated that he was passing everything to Rupa Goswami. And he personally trained him, and he had this, it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was this meeting that was held, a big assembly, where he had this unofficial examination of Rupa Goswami, where Ramananda Rai principally and others, they're asking Rupa Goswami questions and like testing him, examining him. And Mahaprabhu openly bestowed his mercy on him and invited all of the senior Vaishnavas to give their mercy to him. So it was very clearly understood, there's so many qualified, right? There's Srup Damodar, there's Gadadhar Pandit, there's, Nityananda Prabhu, Srup Damodar, maybe I said already. There are so many qualified, senior Vamananda Rai, so many qualified Vaishnavas. Sanatan Goswami, but Sanatan's also like Rup Sanatan or connected. But Mahaprabhu chose Rupa Goswami. Dandavat.
I think...
So,
yeah, sorry,
let me just finish this. So we understand that there is, and all of these great divine persons, they have their own, all the persons I mentioned have their own lineages going on. But Mahaprabhu gave this special indication to Rupa Goswami. And so we feel that this current coming from Lord Chaitanya Dev, being passed to Rupa Goswami, it is in the most profound way flowing in this line. That's not to denigrate anybody else. No doubt there are other great Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But there's some very special connection here in the line of Rupa Goswami.
I was just going to say to you that, it's such an intimate relationship. When you come into any spiritual line with your master, you will have such an intimate relationship. So if it matches your mood, you'll feel the connection. That's what it is. Your heart will tell you. How you... And that's the way I felt it anyway.
That's true. That is also mentioned in the scriptures. Hridayena Bhyanugyata. The heart will know.
Just feel it. So I felt the same with Sridhar Maharaj straight away. I always sometimes say jokingly, the Srila Prabhupada brought me to Sridhar Maharaj. Because I was actually... I'm not associated with ISKCON, but I used to go there quite a lot, and somehow I found this place by accident, completely accident. And when I read the books, and I think it's very important to know the philosophy. It's very, very important to know the philosophy. Yes, you need to read about what the master is saying, the grandfather, the guru, and then that mood will flow throughout. And because he's the father, right? The father sets the tone in the house sometimes. He's the leader. So.
And another thing which we should also mention is that also amongst the Rupanugas there are many Vaishnavas. But we feel very safe under Srila Saraswati Thakur.
Yes.
And the reason is that there's a lot of imitationism. There are a lot of lines. They're following the practices, but without clear understanding of the proper mood of approach, the proper mood of Sharanagati. So there's a lot of imitation, what we call Sahajaism, a lot of imitation, Prakrita Sahaja. So Saraswati Thakur, he is given very clear understanding of what is the real approach, just as there are many things, many points, but just as one example, if you go to some of these Gaudiya temples, they may show all of this emotion, you may see them rolling on the ground. And I don't know, maybe some of them are very great souls, but it's not a helpful example for us to follow. We will think that this is such a quick thing or such an easy thing, that we will make some tears and we will think that we are, experiencing divine ecstasy, So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, he's very clearly shown what are the different steps, different stages we have to go through. What is the real depth of this? Everything's in consciousness, Just to chanting and making some material vibration just to roll some beads, that does not equal Krishna prema. But what is the degree of surrender and sacrifice required for real realization, for real attainment, a real divine love? He's really shown us like how high this is. What are the real steps we need to go through? These things have been shown very clearly by Saraswati Thakur. So we feel, very protected within that, under that umbrella. Those who are on the line of Saraswati Thakur, it's kind of like we feel some surety, like this is something very authentic here. And others maybe or may not be, we don't know, but we feel that confidence with Saraswati Thakur and all of the branches that have come from him. There's this authenticity here. So these are all, important points that are coming up. We better, actually, you know what? I have to take a COVID test today, so unfortunately, so we better.
You have to go?
No, we have some time, but maybe we should have the RT for the fit to fly thing. Jai Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Nakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj ki Jai, Acharya Vrinda ki Jai, Seva Vrinda ki Jai, all the sincere devotees and seekers ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Hari Nitai Prabhu ki Jai, Jivananda Prabhu ki Jai. So now we have RT, we have Nitai Prabhu, one of our best Kirtaniyas.
You want me to